Hi friends, welcome back to Too Good for Drugs. This is lesson number 9 and I'm Miss Larkin. Last time we talked about how alcohol can affect our brain and our body as they grow and develop. We also talked about our refusal skills and how to use them in a situation involving alcohol and peer pressure. So let's review those refusal strategies one more time. So our first one is steer clear, and that's when we know a situation is a bad idea, so we just don't go there. Our second was say no. That's a quick way for us to say no using 1, 2, or maybe 3 words like no, no way, nah, I'm good. We want to make sure we say those in an assertive tone. That's that firm, confident voice that we talked about. Then we have walk away. That's where when we're in a situation and we know it's not a good idea, we think of a safe place and we go there. A place where there's maybe an adult or a lot of people to help us. Next up is ignore. That's when I just pretend I didn't hear what you said. Or maybe I need to ignore you altogether because you do not have great ideas. Next is broken record, and that's where I repeat myself over and over and over again. Sometimes it's 3 times, sometimes it's 30 times. I just keep saying, I don't lie, I don't want to, or I don't use drugs, whatever I need to say, I just repeat myself over and over and over again. Then there's make an excuse. That's where I come up with a realistic reason why I can't do whatever it is someone's asking me to do. So I have to go home, my mom's expecting me. Or no, I have to babysit my brother tonight. Or no, I can't, my grandma's coming for dinner. Then there's the toughest one, which is reverse the pressure. And that's the one where we try to put the pressure back on the other person and try to get them to think about whether or not they're really being a good friend. So I might say something like, if you were really my friend, you wouldn't be pressuring me right now. Then there's state the facts. That's where I state the consequences of what would happen if I did the thing someone's asking me to do. So if they're asking me to cheat on a test, I might say, no way, if I cheat on a test, I could get in big trouble, because that's a consequence of choosing to cheat on a test. And finally, my favorite, a better idea. This is where I come up with a better idea, an alternative of something healthy and safe that we could do instead. So no, how about instead of doing that, you come over to my house and we play video games, or let's have a sleepover instead. Okay, great. Let's get started with today's information. Do you think that somebody who uses a drug for a really long time that planned to do that the first time that they used the drug? They didn't. That's almost never the plan. Oftentimes people think, I'm just going to try something once. And then what happens? They get addicted to it. Sometimes it happens the first time, and sometimes it happens the second or third, and sometimes it doesn't happen for a really long time. But we don't know when that time is because everybody's different. So it happens for different people at different times. What do I mean when I say addicted? Well, that means that a person is willing to keep using their drug even when it hurts their body or hurts other people around them, or they have really big consequences. They think that they need that drug just to be okay. It's what helps them feel normal. Although that's not really true. That's just what they think. And it can be really dangerous and really powerful. And people do things that they wouldn't normally do because their brain gets really confused and they start to believe that they need their drug just to be okay. Today we're going to talk about a really addictive drug called tobacco. Tobacco is a leafy plant that grows. So this plant grows and farmers farm it, and then they hang it in barns and other places to dry it out and smoke it, almost like a dried spice that you'd find in a cabinet. But this plant is really addictive, and we put it in different things and people use it. So the first thing you might be familiar with is cigarettes. They take up the tobacco, they dry it out, and they chop it into little tiny pieces, and they put it in things like cigarettes or pipe tobacco or a cigar, and we call that smoked tobacco because people usually light it on fire and then breathe in the smoke. There's another kind called smokeless tobacco. It's the same idea. They chop it up, but they put it in things like dip or chew. So they'll put it in their lip, and usually it'll look like this. And they'll spit a lot, and sometimes into a cup, and the spit's brown and gross and yucky. You might notice baseball players do it a lot. Some tobacco products don't use tobacco at all. They take the addictive drug that's in tobacco out, and they just use that. That's what we find in e-cigarettes, Juuls, and vape pens. Do you know what that drug is? It's called nicotine. Nicotine's the drug that's in tobacco that makes tobacco so addictive. No matter which way you use tobacco and nicotine products, whether you smoke them use the smokeless kind or the new kind, e-cigarettes and vape pens, you're ingesting nicotine into your body. And nicotine can be really damaging to your growing brain and body, and it's really addictive. So just like alcohol, nicotine comes in different forms. Alcohol comes in beer, wine, and liquor, and we learned that all those things have alcohol in it, and they all affect my growing brain and body. And tobacco is the same way. Nicotine, that drug in tobacco, comes in lots of different forms. Comes in cigarettes, dip and chew, and vape pens, and e-cigarettes. But it's all nicotine, and it all can damage my growing brain and body. Nicotine can affect your body in short-term effects or in long-term effects. When I say short-term, I mean from right away to the first couple of months, and long-term is any time after that. So we're going to take a look and see if we can figure out some long-term and short-term effects of nicotine and tobacco use. So check out your worksheet, look at the section titled, What Am I? In this section, you're going to read clues to help you identify the effects of smoking and using nicotine. You're going to read each clue and then write down the effect the clue describes on the line provided, or on a separate piece of paper if you can't print the worksheet. That's okay. Use the word bank at the top of the page to help you, and you're only going to use each effect once. So I'm going to read you our first example. I make nicotine users look older than they actually are. I often form lines on their face. What am I? Take a second, look at that word bank. What do you think it is? If you said wrinkles, you're right. Are wrinkles a long-term or a short-term effect? They're a long-term effect because you're not going to smoke a cigarette and then just burst out into grandma face. That's not what's going to happen. But over time, if you keep smoking or keep using nicotine and tobacco products, your skin's going to not be as strong and it's going to get weaker, and that's what can cause lines as we get older. And you're probably going to get wrinkles eventually sometime, but if you're smoking, you're going to get bigger wrinkles and you're going to get them sooner than somebody who doesn't smoke. Let's look at number 2 together. Number 2 says, I make a loud, unpleasant noise. I clear poison and mucus from the lungs. My sound often bothers the people around the smoker. What am I? Take a look at that word bank. What do you think? If you said hacking cough, you're right. So is hacking cough a long-term or a short-term effect? Is it something that happens only after time passes? Maybe a couple months, then you'll start coughing? Or is it something that happens right away? It's a short-term effect. It's something that happens right away. A hacking cough is my body's way of trying to tell me that there's something in there that's not supposed to be. So when I breathe in that cigarette smoke and it goes into my lungs, my body knows that doesn't belong there. So it starts coughing, trying to get that smoke up and out to help me. So it's a short-term effect because it happens immediately. Now, does it get worse over time? Absolutely. But it started at the beginning. Get the idea of what we're doing? I know you do. Amazing. So go ahead, take 5 minutes and see if you can figure out the rest, and then we'll talk about them. Let's review the answers that you came up with. Number 3 says, I make it difficult for the smoker to breathe. It's hard to run and play sports because of me. What am I? Shortness of breath. This is a short-term effect because the smoke, as soon as the smoke enters the lung, right away it starts getting difficult for the smoker to breathe. Remember how we talked about the having cough before we started? Same idea. Number 4, I'm a nasty smell that comes from the nicotine user's mouth. People back away from the user when the user talks because of me. I'm caused by the buildup of chemicals that stick to the teeth, gum, and tongue. What am I? Bad breath. Nicotine and tar stick to the user's mouth, causing bad breath, and that can develop over a very short period of time, so it's a short-term effect. Number 5, I change the tobacco user's smile from bright and sparkly to dull and dingy. Chemicals from tobacco products leave sticky residue on me and change my color. What am I? The answer is yellow teeth. Now, is this a short-term or a long-term effect? It's actually a short-term effect. And here's why. So as soon as you start smoking, those chemicals that come off the cigarette go directly onto your mouth and stick to your teeth immediately. You just might not be able to notice yet. So think about it like this. Does your hair grow every night? And does your fingernails grow every night? Absolutely they do, but it's such a tiny amount you almost don't even notice. But if you looked at your hair today and in 3 months from now, you would notice that it's longer. It's the same way it works with your teeth getting yellow. You may not notice it because you're with your teeth every day, you're with your hair every day, but over time, if you look from now and then 3 months from now, you'll see a really big difference. And that's the same thing that happens with teeth. So that yellow starts right away, but it's so tiny you don't notice it, but over time you will. But because it starts right away, we call it a short-term effect. Next up is number 6. Tobacco use is the leading cause of me. I'm a serious disease that can develop in the lungs, throat, or mouth of the user. What am I? The answer is cancer. Cancer is an irregular growth of cells. Tobacco users can develop cancer in the mouth, lungs, and throat after a longer period of time of use. So this is a long-term effect. And you think about it, every place that the smoke would go is where a person is more likely to get their cancer. So smoke goes through your mouth, down your throat, and into your lungs. Number 7. I am the disease that develops because the nicotine use causes problems with the heart. What am I? Heart disease. Nicotine in the body can cause the heart to beat faster than normal and the blood vessels get smaller. So what that means is nicotine is a stimulant. That means that it speeds up your heart, makes your heart go faster. And when I do that, that means there's lots of blood pumping around my body. But it also makes the vessels that push the blood through my body smaller. So if normally they're like this, but because I smoke and the nicotine's in my system, it gets like this. So now that blood that keeps my body going has an even smaller place to get through. And so now my heart has to beat even faster. So it's just beating to keep me alive, but now it has to beat faster because the nicotine sped it up. And now it has to beat even faster to make sure that I get all the blood through my body because the vessels have gotten so much smaller, the heart has to push even harder. So it's working like at least 3 times as hard as it needs to. And when I do that to my heart so long, so often, it can create heart disease because it wears out my heart. Next up is number 8. I cause nicotine users to crave and to want to use tobacco and nicotine products all the time. Because of me, users think they need tobacco even though it's harmful. What am I? The answer is addiction. Is addiction a long-term or a short-term effect? Addiction is a short-term effect. Because remember that addiction can happen immediately. It's something that can happen at the very beginning of me using. Some people get addicted to stuff in the first time they try something. And sometimes people get addicted to stuff after years of use. I don't know why my friend John gets addicted the very first time he used, but my friend Susie doesn't get addicted for 3 years. And maybe other people don't ever get addicted. I don't know why that happens. We're all very different. But I do know that when it can happen, is it can happen at the very beginning. So we call it a short-term effect. And lastly, number 9, I'm the reason smokers spend so much time outside and away from their family and friends. What am I? The answer is secondhand smoke. So, just so we all know, secondhand smoke is the smoke that comes off of a smoker. So when they breathe their cigarette smoke in, or their tobacco smoke in, or whatever it is, their vape in, the smoke that comes out of them when they exhale, or the smoke that comes off their cigarette or vape, that smoke we call secondhand smoke. Even a little bit of exposure to secondhand smoke can be harmful to you. So it's important to make sure that you leave areas that somebody is smoking in. You don't need to stay. So you can leave there and just go outside and play, or go to your room. Make sure you're telling your adults so that they know where you are. But it's okay. And if you're comfortable, you can even ask that person to please not smoke around you, because you're allowed to ask for what you need. They may not listen, but that doesn't mean you need to stay there either. Some people don't think about how much a quick decision to use tobacco can affect their future and their ability to reach their goals. So we want to take a look at the section in your workbook titled Clearing the Air. You're going to write down the ending to the peer pressure scenario involving nicotine products. In each scenario, you will help someone refuse peer pressure by using the listed refusal strategy. Let's look at an example. If someone said, "Smoke the cigarette with me," and you wanted to use the state the facts refusal strategy, you might say something like, "I don't want to, smoking gives you bad breath," or "No thanks, smoking can give you yellow teeth." So what I want you to do is complete the scenario by using the listed refusal strategy in the section on your worksheet titled Clearing the Air. So take about 10 minutes and do that now, and then we'll take a look at your answers together. let's take a look at the answers you came up with. So for number one, Jamal said to Evan, I took a couple of cigarettes from my mom's purse last night. Let's try them. Evan wants to refuse the peer pressure using the make an excuse strategy. What could Evan say? Well, he might have said something like, oh, I can't, I have to go home. My mom's expecting me for dinner. Let's take a look at number two. Brad said to Chris, my brother gave me some chewing tobacco. He said everyone uses it. Do you want to try it? Chris wants to refuse the peer pressure by using the better idea strategy. What could Chris say? Well, he might say, let's go have a snack instead. Number three. Kelly said to Tessa, if you really are my friend, you will try the cigarette with me. Tessa wants to refuse the peer pressure by using the reverse the pressure strategy. What could Tessa say? She might say something like, if you were really my friend, you wouldn't be pressuring me to do something that's unhealthy. Next up, number four. Jada said to Misty, it's just one puff from a vape pen. It's no big deal. Misty wants to refuse the peer pressure by using the state the facts strategy. What could Misty say? She could say, actually, it is a big deal. Vape pens have nicotine in them just like regular cigarettes, and nicotine's really addictive. And finally, Mike said to Don, don't be a chicken, try this cigar. Don wants to refuse the pressure by using the broken record strategy. So Don might say, I don't smoke, I don't smoke, I don't smoke. And no matter what Mike said, Don would just keep repeating himself. Whether it was 3 times or 30 times, he would say it until Mike left him alone. Now let's take a look at some benefits of being nicotine-free. Take a look at your worksheet in the section titled Don't Start. We're going to read each clue and then write down the benefit of not using nicotine that the clue describes. This is just like how we learned about the harmful effects of nicotine at the start of the lesson. Let's look at an example together. Number 1 says, nicotine-free individuals are more likely to have this because they don't have chemicals found in tobacco products or smoke clinging to the inside of their mouths. What do you think the answer is? The answer is fresher breath. So go ahead and finish the rest, and then we'll talk about them. Take 5 minutes to do it, and then we'll review your answers. Let's review your answers. Number 2 says, nicotine and tobacco products are expensive. Non-users have more of this than nicotine users to spend on other things. The answer is more money. Number 3 says, people who are nicotine-free have a lower risk of heart disease than nicotine users. So that means they are more likely to have this, a happy heart. Number 4, non-users have this because the nicotine from tobacco products is not staining their teeth. Whiter teeth. Number 5, non-smokers are more likely to have this because their hair and clothing do not smell like smoke. They smell much better, so they smell good. Number 6, smokers experience a dulling of their senses, so they aren't able to smell or taste food as well as non-smokers. A better sense of taste and smell. Number 7, non-smokers breathe easier and are more likely to enjoy exercise and playing sports than non-smokers. Healthy lungs. Number 8 says, nicotine damages the skin and causes premature sagging of the skin and wrinkles. So someone who's a non-smoker has healthier skin. So now that you've learned a bunch of long-term and short-term effects of nicotine and tobacco use and the benefits of being nicotine and tobacco free, you'll be able to make excellent decisions about what's right for you. And that's being nicotine and tobacco free, because your brain and body is still growing and we want your brain and body to grow up really strong. Okay, I'll see you back here next time for our very last lesson, lesson 10. Bye, friends.